Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for an amazing call with Dr. Bruce Lipton. We're here for the Personal Health Summit. We're so excited to be supported by so many incredible organizations all around the world. Thank you so much for the Ultimate Human Foundation for the incredible work they're doing all around the world towards ending chronic pain and disease. Thank you to PhD for supporting us in the application of epigenetics and personalized health and things that we're discussing on this very call today. So without any further ado, Dr. Bruce Lipton, thank you so much for joining us here today. For those who don't know Bruce, you need to get to know Bruce. He's an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit. He's a stem cell biologist, best-selling author of Biology of Belief. Has been guest speaker on hundreds of TV shows, radio shows, keynote presenter, national, international conferences all around the world. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
I am so delighted to be here, Matt, and I'm delighted to be with your audience because we're going through an evolutionary upheaval and people are not really aware of what's going on, but they know the world is not exactly the same as it's been, and it will never be the same as it's been because we're moving into something new right now.
Absolutely. It's really exciting times, and the intention for today, Bruce, is just to have a really great conversation for our listeners and for our audience about things that are happening and things that are changing in the world. And the topic, of course, today is epigenetics, but epigenetics, as we know, when we're applying it, tends to be a pretty broad conversation. And so I'd love to start with the smaller conversation where we're talking about cellular epigenetics, just to give us a background from a layman's point of view about what is epigenetics and what do we need to start to be aware of with this concept. It's something you've been working on for 50 years or so, but something that's just become a buzzword of late and people are very interested in it. We've had some great conversations in the past about it. I love speaking about it, but I'd love just to hear from you today. What is epigenetics and what should we know about epigenetics?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this is a major evolution or revolution on our planet. For the simple understanding is this: almost all of us, almost everybody out there has been programmed with the belief that genes control the character of our lives, that genes, these structures inside our cells, program us. And people believe, oh, that programs your physical life, it programs your behavior and emotions. So things running in families, people perceive are, oh, these are genes that are passed from parent to child, and these traits are carried through families. Now, if you buy into that story, here's where the problem comes from. The problem is this: as far as we know, you didn't pick the genes you came with. And if you don't like the genes you have, you can't do anything about it. And you can't control the genes. The genes control you. If you understand what that means, it means we are victims of our heredity. Meaning, oh my God, there's cancer running in my family. Oh, I could get the gene, I could have the cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, whatever these things are. People have presumed that they're genetically involved, and as a result, being a child in a family where some disease is running through that family leads one to believe that they can anticipate and expect that this will be their fate in life, okay? Well, this makes us victims because I said we have no control over switch on and off, turn me on and off, and I have nothing to do with it. And that really puts us in a very bad position because being powerless, of course, is not a good sign. And I said, well, what's epigenetics? I said, it sounds the same as genetics, but the profound difference is this. When I say genetic control, which is the conventional belief, meaning this is under the control of genes, that's what disempowers you because you have no power over the gene. The new science is called epigenetics. And so when I say epigenetic control, it almost sounds like the same thing, but I say, oh my God, it's a revolution for this reason. Epi means above. So when I say epigenetic control, I'm literally saying control above the genes. And what this now turns into is that it's the environment, and more importantly, our perception of the environment that controls our genes. I say, well, why is that relevant? I say, well, look, we're the ones that can change the environment. We're the ones that can change our perception. And all of a sudden it says, well, those are the factors controlling our genes, and we are not victims. That we absolutely have master control over our own heredity and our life experiences, and we are not controlled by genes. The first big mistake is this: the concept that a gene is what we call self-actualizing, meaning a gene can turn itself on and off. People say, oh, the cancer gene turned on or this gene turned off. And I go, this is a bunch of BS. Oh, that's belief system. This is a bunch of belief system. And the simple reality is this: epigenetics reveals that simply genes are blueprints Just like you go into an architect's office, you're building a building, you've got some blueprints. You walk into the architect's office, let's say she's working on her blueprint, and you lean over her shoulder and you say, is your blueprint on or off? And she'll look at you like, what, are you crazy? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. I go, precisely. A gene is a blueprint. It has no ability to regulate itself. It doesn't turn itself on. It doesn't turn itself off. A gene doesn't even know what it does. So like, oh, a gene causes cancer. No, genes don't cause cancer. That's a lie. Genes don't cause cancer. Genes are correlated with cancer. So these are two words that we must get so people straighten out. Causation versus correlation. Causation, this element causes, it induces some action. This is controlling. Causing is controlling. Correlation means it's associated with. So when you say, let's say a woman has a BRCA1 gene, the breast cancer gene. If you believe the gene controls you, then you believe, oh my God, I have the gene, I'm going to get the cancer. This is why Angelina Jolie chose to have a double mastectomy, even though she had no problem. She chose that because she said, my mother died of this breast cancer and my grandmother died of this breast cancer. And therefore, if I take my breasts off, I will not have breast cancer. Well, that's a fallacious statement in the first place, because you have to follow that up with taking your uterus out and taking your ovary out. And now you can say, I'm not going to get it, but that still doesn't stop the problem for this reason. The gene BRCA1 does not cause cancer. Simple point. Simple. 50% of the women that carry that gene never get the cancer. I say, well, why is it relevant? Well, if the gene causes cancer, then having the gene will cause the cancer. And I said, 50% of the women have this gene and never get the cancer. That's the more important side of the story, because if we focus on the ones that did get the cancer, we say, oh, the gene and the cancer are connected. And I go, yeah, well, they're connected, but they're not causative. And I say, why? Well, 50% of the women have a gene, and if it causes cancer, they should get it, but they never get the cancer. So the point about it is simply this: the gene itself does not cause cancer. If it did, then everybody would get cancer that had the gene. 50% of the women don't. I say, what's different? Their lifestyle, their perception of life, their environment is not supporting a cancer. And therefore, you can have the gene, never get the cancer. Okay? And just to get an idea about the cancer, and this is, people shouldn't have recognized this fact, less than 10% of cancer has any hereditary connection. 90% of more cancer is totally lifestyle and personal attitudes and belief. And I go, the significance of that is in a story, and that is they followed the fate of children adopted into families where there's cancer running in the family. And they find out that the adopted child will get the same family cancer as the other siblings. And it's like, but what does that mean? I go, the kid that was adopted had completely different genetics, didn't come from the family, had totally different genetics. And all of a sudden you say, well, all of a sudden the cancer wasn't connected to the genetics. I go, no, the cancer is a consequence of dealing with life. A cancer is not a problem. A cancer is a symptom of a problem, meaning your life is not in harmony. You're living way out of balance. There's a lot of probably stress and anger, which is part of the issue, building up, okay? And the significance about that is if you don't want the cancer, it's not to get rid of the cancer cells. They're only the consequence of a lifestyle. Change the lifestyle and the cancer goes away. If you don't change the lifestyle, even if you have the cancer removed, you didn't change the source of the cancer. It wasn't the cells. The cells were responding to the environment, epigenetics. So if you don't want the cancer, you can take out all the cancer cells. I say, fine. But after you take them out, if you didn't change the environment, if you didn't change your life, then you're going to get that cancer again. So I said, well, who are the ones that don't get the cancer after the diagnosis, after whatever treatment? I say, those that didn't get the cancer again are those that realize, oh my God, the cells weren't to blame. It was me. It was my life, the way I live, the anger, the stress, the job, whatever. It's like, once you realize that, then you can change that condition. And then guess what? The cancer will not come back. So we have to distinguish between the cause and the symptom. The cancer is, the cells are the symptom of a cause, but the cause is not genetic. The cause is something that we can control. So the new revolution, epigenetics, is a revolution that says, I am not a victim of my heredity. I can change my genes just by changing the way I live and the way I believe and my lifestyle. I can change these genes. We now know you can change your genetic activity within 8 hours. They did a study of a genetic readout from people about inflammation genes that were causing inflammation. And then they had the people, they did the readout, and then the people did meditation for 8 hours. And then when they got finished with meditation, they looked and the genes had already changed function. And basically it says, oh my God, because we used to believe, oh, my genes are my life. And I go, no, you can change your genes in 8 hours, or even less than that. And so we must let go of a belief that things happen to us and we are not in control, because it turns out we're in absolute control of our health and our vitality. But we also have to take power for that. So if you don't have consciousness that says, I am involved with my own genes, you have the consciousness like, hey, the genes are doing it and I have nothing to do with it. If you have that attitude, your life is out of control. But if you have the control that says, wait, I'm not living in harmony, I'm not living in happiness in my life, I'm under a lot of stress. So stress, fact of science, stress, 90% of doctor visits are attributed to stress. Here's a fact. Ready? This is a fact. Less than 1%, less than 1% of disease is controlled by genes. You have to stop and go, where's all the disease coming from? Lifestyle. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we're expressing a healthcare crisis that doesn't have to exist. It could change tomorrow if people took responsibility for how they're living, how they're eating, how they're exercising, what they're thinking, the environment in which they're living. Why? If you adjust these factors, you can change genetic readout in minutes. And this is what we need to know. So it's time for people to see, I am not a victim. I'm a master, but I will only be a master when I become conscious, aware, and exercise my consciousness to control my genetics. That's a short answer for a short question, but there's a really long answer, but that's a short answer.
Thanks, Bruce. I love the insight. I love the clarity that you bring to that for everybody listening at home and wherever you are in the world listening and tuning into this. It's such an empowering message that, this relatively new buzzword, epigenetics, it's been around for a very long time. I know that you were looking at cells in petri dishes 50 years ago in terms of pioneering the concept.
Oh, come on, not 50, 40.
Sorry,
okay.
40, mate. No,
45. Okay, 45 years ago, I was studying stem cells and tissue culture. I was cloning stem cells. 45 years ago when I was doing this, only a handful of us in the entire world even knew what a stem cell was. And I happened not just to be working with them, but cloning them, meaning I could take one stem cell and put it in a petri dish by itself, just one cell in the dish. It divides every 10 or 12 hours. After a week of doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling, I have 50,000 cells in the petri dish. But here's what the most important part about cloning is. All 50,000 cells are genetically identical cells because they came from the same parent. So I have 50,000 genetically identical cells. But this is what I did. I split the cells up into 3 petri dishes. So I have 3 dishes, each with genetically identical cells in it. But I changed the composition, the chemistry of the culture medium. Let me just explain what culture medium is. To grow cells outside of the body, I have to create an environment that's like inside the body. So what's it like inside the body? I look at the blood composition from the animal I get the cells from. So if I'm working on mouse cells, I look at mouse blood, look at its composition, and try to make a synthetic version of it in the laboratory, and that's called culture medium. If I grow human cells, I look at the composition of human blood and try to make that. What's the point? Culture medium is the equivalent of blood. But here's what I do, and this is the experiment that changed my entire life because I was teaching medical students genes control life, and I'm doing this experiment. And what is it? 3 different petri dishes, genetically identical cells in all 3. But I changed the chemistry because I'm making the culture medium. I can change the chemistry a little bit in each dish. So I changed the chemistry a little bit in each dish. In one dish, the cells form muscle. In the second dish, they form bone. And in the third dish, the cells form fat cells. But you look and say, wait a minute, what's the meaning of this? I go, the meaning is this. What controls the fate of the cells? Why does some become muscle in one dish, bone in a different dish, and fat in the other dish? And the answer says, it was not genetics. Why? They all had the same genes. So you can't say genes pushed or caused the difference. No, the cause was the environment. And I said, if I change the conditions of the environment, I change the genetics of the cell. It's not the genetics of the cell controlling the cell in the environment. It's the environment adjusting the genetics so that the cell lives in harmony with the environment. I go, well, wait a minute. The genes had no control. I go, oh my God. I'm teaching in a classroom to medical students, genes control life. Then I come in my laboratory and the cells are going, no, that's not true. That's not true. The life is controlled by the environment. And I say, okay, now relate this to humans, because otherwise it's an experiment in a tissue culture dish. I go, no. When you look in the mirror, Matt, when I look in the mirror and I see one person looking back, I go, oh, one organism called Bruce, one organism called Matt. I go, that's a slight misperception for this reason. You can't see it with the magnification, but if you could get close enough to look at your body closer, you would realize you're not a single entity. You're made out of about 50 trillion cells, like amoebas. 50 trillion amoebas have given me this shape. I go, why is it relevant? You're not a one thing. If you're a one thing, that one thing is called the community, because the living things are the cells. And I say, so when I say the word Bruce, you say the word Matt. That is a name not for a single entity, like one organism. That is a name for a community of 50 trillion cells. So you're not a single thing, you're a community. And I go, under your skin, you have 50 trillion cells. I go, oh, this is cool. You ready? You are a skin-covered petri dish. You have 50 trillion cells under your skin. You have culture medium, the original culture medium called blood. So the cells are bathed in the blood, just like they are in a plastic dish, okay? But here's what's different. I say, in the laboratory, I synthesize the composition of the culture medium, the blood. I go, what about you? Matt, who controls the composition of your blood? Why? Because the study reveals that the chemical composition of the blood is controlling the genetics and the fate of the cells. So I say, well, who or what is controlling the composition? Okay, this is coming down to like, okay, it comes down to this. The brain is the chemist. The brain adds chemistry or like neurohormones, emotional chemicals, or growth factors, or immunoregulators are coming from the brain and going into the blood. So the blood is the chemist, like myself in the laboratory. I'm creating the blood. I say, yeah, now the next question, and this is the big one. Okay, so the brain puts the chemistry in the blood, but the question is, what chemistry should the brain add to the blood? And I go, you ready? It's based on your perception of life. When you look out at life, the brain sees a picture, and the brain takes that picture and converts it into chemistry that matches the picture. The result is this: the picture in my head is translated into chemistry by the brain. The chemistry goes into the body, and I become a complement to the picture. If it's a picture of love, I put different chemistry in. But if my picture in my head is fear, then I have completely different chemistry. I'll give you a simple example. We're both sitting here right now. I say, close our eyes. And when you open your eyes, you see someone you love. Point. Picture in brain, an individual you love. First of all, the chemistry that comes from a brain and love is dopamine, pleasure. Yeah, I see the one I love, I feel pleasure. Oxytocin is another chemical that comes from the brain and love. It's bonding. It says bond to this source of pleasure. I go, okay, I'm bonding with my partner. And then I say vasopressin. That's another chemical. If love is in your mind, vasopressin comes out of your brain. And that makes you more attractive so that your partner is more attracted to you. And lastly, not lastly, but another major chemical that comes out in love is when you see someone you love, you release what is called growth hormone. I don't even have to explain it. That's the name, growth hormone. I say, why is it relevant? Think about it this way. When people see somebody else in love, they go, oh, look how healthy they are. Look how they glow. They have that glow of love. And I go, that's not a coincidence. That's a chemical response. That's chemistry of a picture of love converted into chemistry in the blood, which is now look at it this way. Change, same, you and I, and we have eyes closed, and you open them up, and you see something that scares you, you're not releasing any of the chemistry I just talked about. If you have a picture of fear or stress, you release stress hormones, cortisone, for example. You release inflammatory agents that adjust the immune system for fight or flight. And I go, why is it relevant? I say, the chemistry coming out of a brain in fear is not the chemistry that comes out of the brain in love. Oh, yeah, but I say, but what does it mean? I say, well, the chemistry goes in the blood. I go, yeah, but what does that mean? I go, the cells are bathing in the culture medium called blood. As shown in the research, epigenetics, that I did in tissue culture, the chemistry of the blood is what is controlling the genetics. I go, well, wait, I changed the chemistry of the blood when I changed my thoughts. And I go, now you got it. What was the point? I'm adjusting my biology day by day, minute by minute, by how I respond to the world. And if I change my response to the world, I can totally change my biology virtually instantaneously. And you go, well, that sounds kind of weird. And I go, look, for 100 years, people have talked about the placebo effect. What's the placebo effect? Oh, I have an illness, and the doctor says, this pill, purple, because purple's special color. They even advertise a pill. They said, it's purple. And everybody goes, oh, purple special color. And they say, okay, this pill is going to heal you. You take the pill, you get better. You say, the pill healed me. And I go, it was sugar pill. Oh, well then, question is this, what healed you? And the answer was this, not the pill, the belief in the pill. The image of I am healing, I see healing by taking this pill, I see healing in my head. I go, guess what? You see healing in your head, the brain will translate that into healing chemistry. It translates the picture into matching chemistry. That chemistry of healing goes in the body, you got better, and you say, the pill healed me. I go, the pill was sugar. What healed you? Your thought. That's called placebo effect. Everybody goes, oh, I say, yeah, but what does it mean? Mind over matter. That's the example of everything we've been talking about in epigenetics. And I go, wow, but what does the public not get? And this is the point, Matt. This is the point. We talk about placebo as a positive healing thought resulting in positive life and healing. I go, yeah, but what about a negative thought? Nobody talks about negative thought. I go, oh, a negative thought is equally powerful in controlling your biology, but it controls it in the opposite direction. Rather than health, a negative thought shuts down health. It walls you off from the world because you're in protection. I fear something. Oh, I'm not there. The brain just, I'm not there. It closes off. Here's a simple point. I take the chemistry released by the brain in love, put that in my laboratory plastic dishes with my cells. Cells grow beautifully. You ready for this? I take the chemistry from a brain in fear and take that chemistry and put it in the petri dish. The cells stop growing. They start dying. And people go, fear kills. I go, I can tell you, it kills. Why? Put the chemistry of fear in a petri dish and the cells begin to die. Because fear is wall yourself off, which means no nutrients coming in. Protection is like autism. I'm not here. You can't bother me. I'm not here. And the fact is, oh, it's the mind. So let's summarize very simply what I just said here, okay? And it goes like this. The story is, whatever picture you have in your head, it's translated into chemistry. The simplest understanding, because most people, when they were younger, most people played with something called paint by numbers. paint by numbers. You get a picture, it's all outlines, and there's little numbers inside the outlines, and then there's a paint kit. And the paint kit has the paint by numbers, and you take that number paint and you fill in the spot with that number on the picture. And when you fill in all the spots, Picasso. You become Picasso. You made this beautiful picture, okay? You ready? This, bottom line, life, simplest understanding. Paint by numbers in reverse. Point. First, you start with a completed picture, the one in your head. My life is good. My life is scary. My life is in trouble. My life is happy. I don't care what the picture is. That's the picture. I say, then what's the function of the brain? It translates the pictures into numbers that match the picture, like paint. But it's not paint. It's neurochemicals. And when those neurochemicals go into the blood, they match, they create a body image and a biology and a behavior that is an exact complement of the picture. So you start with a picture, and then you create a body and a biology that becomes the complement to the picture. Point. What's in your mind? What's on your mind during the day? How much stress are you under? How much love are you experiencing? These are the things that will determine the chemistry. And these are the things that determine your health. So the conclusion, you are not a victim of your genetics. If anything, you're a victim of your perception, because your brain is between the environment and your cells. And your brain has to interpret the environment. And if the interpretation is correct, then the chemistry that comes from that brain will match the world that you have to deal with. But if you have a misperception, you read that environment wrong, your biology is no longer in harmony with the world. You're out of sync. So some people can look at the world and go, oh, it's the scariest thing I've ever seen. I just watched the news. Everything is scary. I go, fear, stress hormones, shut down the system, wall yourself off. And I go, yeah, but maybe the world isn't scary. Maybe the world's really good. I say, but for you, you're not connecting now. You've seen it as scary. You've disconnected yourself. You are now walled off because you're in fear of something going to happen to you. And you're not open to live anymore. You're now closed. And it's the closing down that causes death and illness. And so therefore, the health crisis that this world is facing right now has virtually nothing to do with genetics. It has everything to do with watching the news, reading the paper, being afraid of what's going on, not being in love, because love is a feeling of harmony. Fear is disharmony. So are you in harmony or disharmony? It's a gradient. The more you're in love, the healthier you are. The more you're in fear, the more you're closed down, the less healthier you are. So basically, I want people to understand this, because it's a revolution that says, I am not a victim. I am a master. But to be a master, you have to take control. And when you do take control, you will be healthy, happy, free of illness, and have a great life on this planet.
That's beautiful, Bruce. I love how you pack chat and just put that together so eloquently. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really important understanding from epigenetics about how we can actually be in control of everything. And as you shared, it's over 90% or 99 up to 99% of our life is what we get to choose, and we get to choose how we think, we get to choose what we perceive, we get to choose the foods we put in our mouth or the activity we do or don't do. We get to choose our friends we hang out with and where we live, and we get to choose what we do with our time. All of that stuff we get to choose. We're 100% empowered to control our lives and our biochemistry and our cells and our fate of our health or disease. It's really, really
but now the question becomes, is the picture you choose. And now the question is this a voluntary effort? I can choose any picture I want? Well, the answer is yes, except, and this is the one that will kill you, there are two parts to the mind, and we've called it the mind. Oh, the mind. I go, no, it's two minds that work together, and one is called the conscious mind, and one is called the subconscious mind. And here's the difference. The conscious mind is the latest evolution of the brain. It's what makes humans above all the other animals. For this reason, it's a creative mind. It's the one connected to your personal identity, to your spirituality. That's connected to the conscious mind. Matt is not a name back here. Matt is the name up in the front, because the right behind your forehead is called the prefrontal cortex. That's the latest evolution. Your identity is in there, not back here. That's subconscious. That was there before this was added, okay? Subconscious, below conscious, that's sub, below conscious, meaning it controls your things like your breathing, your heart rate, your body temperature, but it also controls whether you're going to move this way or you're going to move this way. It's looking, it's protecting you, okay? So it's watching out. Point, subconscious is 1,000,000 times more powerful a computer than the conscious mind. So if you're like in a car getting out of control and the car is skidding, subconscious mind is very fast. Conscious mind is slow. It's a slow processor. It's slow compared to subconscious. I go, relevance? The car's just going out of control, it's skidding. And if you're staying conscious mind, this will be your response. Oh, like that. Okay? What about if you're in subconscious mind? I go, oh, instantly respond. So when you get into that skid, the conscious brain is shut off. And the next thing you know, you're turning the wheel and pumping the brakes and doing all this without even thinking. I go, because it's faster. So when you're in stress, you don't use the conscious mind, you use subconscious because it's faster, more powerful, okay? Okay, so we got two minds to create with. The conscious mind is you, and since it's creative, this is the cool part, it deals with a future that doesn't exist because that's creativity. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Oh, but I can create an idea of what I'm going to do and then carry it out. So I say, oh, conscious mind's creative. Subconscious mind is habitual. You got a habit, push the button, it'll play that habit every time you push the button exactly the way it was created. Okay? So conscious mind creative, subconscious mind habit. Okay, now we got, so you're the conscious mind. I say, Matt, you tell me what you want from your life. You tell me all the things you want. Want meaning future. And I say, every decision of a wish, every desire, every aspiration that you have for life, conscious mind, it's the creative one. Okay? And I go, oh, okay. So I want happiness, love, health, good job. I think this is great. This is the conscious mind. And then you say, okay, so I should be able to run my life with my wishes and desires. And I go, cool. And now, you ready? Wake up, people. Here's the wake-up call. The conscious mind can think. And when it thinks, it changes where you are located in your world. I'll give you an example. Matt, what are you doing on Saturday at 2 o'clock?
I have no idea just yet, actually.
Yeah, but if you're going to look for it, where would you find it?
I'll likely be in San Francisco.
No. That's the
Frontal
physical
cortex.
location. I'm asking, where did you get the identity that you'd be in San Francisco?
Frontal cortex.
Consciousness. You were thinking, this is what I want. This is where I'll be. But I said, no, wait, you had to think. Where am I going to be on Saturday? Go through your little Rolodex. Oh yeah, Friday. Oh, Saturday. And I said, yeah, but here's the point. You ready? When you're thinking, where's your attention focused? Out here or in here? Where's it?
Internal.
That's the question.
Yeah. Internal.
Internal. Ooh. When you're thinking, then you ready? This is what you just said. When you're thinking, your attention from your conscious mind is not paying attention to what's going on outside. It's paying attention to what's going on inside. Well, does that mean Matt's walking down the street and then he has a thought and he stops? Why? Conscious mind's not paying attention now. Conscious mind's inside. So you freeze. Thought's over. Now you go back walking down the street. I go, no. You had a thought. You kept walking. You're in the car, driving the car. And all of a sudden you have a thought about, I'm going down to the store. What am I going to get? I'm going to get this and this and this and this. I go, yeah, but you were thinking. Where was your conscious mind? Inside. You go, but you're still driving the car. So here it is. Aloha, everyone, wake up because here it is. When you are in your conscious mind, you have your hands on the wheel and you're driving the vehicle to your destination. Wishes, desires, and aspirations. But when you're thinking, you're inside. And when you're thinking, you let go of the wheel. You're not driving the vehicle now. I say, yeah, the default, the autopilot is subconscious. The moment you had a thought, you were walking down the street, you kept walking. I go, yeah, but now who's controlling walking? Because you're inside figuring out what you're doing on Saturday. I go, oh, subconscious knows how to walk. It's been controlling your walking ever since you were 2 years old. You never had to think about walking. It's automatic. Driving the car. Once you learned how to drive a car, it's a habit. So I can drive the car. My conscious mind gets busy in thought. My subconscious is driving the car. Okay? I'm not. You said, oh, subconscious driving. I go, hey, it's 1,000,000 times more powerful. It's more effective at driving than you are. So subconscious is cool. If you have a good habit. If you have a bad habit and you kick into subconscious, then your driving sucks because you're just going to play whatever the tape is. Okay, so point, 2 minds. Conscious mind, you, spirit, wishes, desires, and what you want. When you have your hands on the wheel, you're going towards your destination. But when you're thinking, you as a pilot, you let go of the wheel. Autopilot, subconscious, then takes over all the functions. Okay? I go, difference? The subconscious is working on a program. Oh, okay. Oh, where'd my programs come from? Okay, this is the big hammer in the head. The fundamental programs to carry out your life, how to respond to the stimuli in your world, how to respond to the people in your world, how to communicate, and how you think about it this way. How you talk to a child is not the same as you talk to an adult, which is not the same as you talk to your lover, which is not the same as you talk to the policeman. I go, I have to learn what? How to communicate with all these different people in different ways. I go, that's just communicating. I say, oh my God, where do I get these programs? The first 7 years of your life, your brain subconscious is in record. It's called theta. And you observe your mother, your father, your siblings, and your community. I say, what are you doing? You're downloading behavior. Why? Well, you don't have any behavior. You just got here. You don't know anything. You have to learn. I say, well, you don't give an infant a book and say, here are the rules to live in the family and the community. The rules are created by observing how everyone behaves. And I say, yeah, but then the programs that just went in the first 7 years, they're not your wishes and your desires. They're other people's lives that you're programming. So you program your mother and your father's behavior into you. And you look at your life right now and you say, do you like all the programs your parents had? I go, well, maybe not. I go, well, too bad, because you've been programmed with them. And the first 7 years is programming. And I say, what happens after 7? I say, now you can put your hands on the wheel and drive. Consciousness kicks in around 7. I go, yeah, but what are you going to drive with? What rules? I say, you just downloaded 7 years of rules. You're going to go to the program. But consciousness also has wishes and desires. So I can, with conscious mind, decide, I'm not going to play that program. I'm going to play my own program. Well, that's a conscious choice. I go, yeah, great. I say, and how much is consciousness working? Oh, Jesus, here it is. 5%. Stop for 1 second and recognize this. You are running your life with your hands on the wheel, driving toward your wishes and your desires 5% of the time. 95% of the day, you are in thought, thinking about everything, what you're doing, where you're going, where you've been, thoughts, how is this going to work out? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? I go, yeah, but that means 95% of your life is not coming from your creative conscious mind. It's coming from the programs that you got in the first 7 years. And then I say, little interesting fact, psychologists will tell you that 70% or more of the programs that you got in the first 7 years are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting because of the critical approach that our parents gave, trying to help us get on track. Oh, you don't deserve that. Who do you think you are? You're not that smart. You're not that lovable. Parents trying to goad you into being better. They criticize you like a coach. But a child under 7 It's just recording. It's not thinking. So a child over 7, the parent says, "You don't deserve that, Billy." And Billy goes, "Oh, I'm being a pain in the ass. My dad's mad. He's yelling at me, and I understand." But if Billy is 6 years old and the dad says, "You don't deserve that," Billy's conscious mind's not thinking what dad means. Billy's conscious mind's just a recording. I do not deserve. That's a recording. I do not deserve. Then I say, and now that you're 40 years old, I say, yes, you're playing 95% of your life from that subconscious program. I say, what's that program? In this case of Billy, I do not deserve. I say, why is it relevant? Well, if the subconscious is controlling the program, and the subconscious knows what the program is, then the job of the subconscious is to manifest the program. That's the job, is to create a life that matches the program. So if I have a program I do not deserve, what do you think the subconscious is going to do? Self-sabotage. Why? Because in the end, you'll look at the results and you go, I didn't get it. And then your mind will say, yeah, because you didn't deserve it. That's what it said. So you didn't get it. Oh my God. My parents' programs that I took in became self-critical, and my subconscious 95% of the day is making reality out of those subconscious programs. The net result is, what the hell am I creating? I go, not your life. You're creating a program. Okay, so for all of my millennial friends out there, under 40, here's the whole answer, because you've seen it, but you didn't get it. The movie The Matrix is listed as science fiction. The absolute truth is The Matrix is a documentary. Everybody has been programmed. You had to have been programmed. Why? If you have no program, how are you going to carry out your life? So the first 7 years is downloading programs of how to become a member of a family and a community. And then 95% of the rest of your life is play the damn program, because the conscious mind's thinking. And so you're going to revert, default, automatic, subconscious program. You become your mother, your father, your siblings, your community, whatever that program is they gave you. And since most of it is disempowering, then you recognize, holy crap, no wonder why I have so much struggle in my life. 95% is coming from this program, and look at the programs that I got. They're disempowering, and I don't see it. So here's a story I tell in every lecture, and people laugh, and this is why I tell it in every lecture, because they understand it. So here's the story. You have a friend. You know your friend's behavior very, very well. You've growing up with your friend, you know your friend's behavior. And you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your best friend has the same behavior as their parent. And this excites you. You want to really, tell your friend, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then you back away from Bill. Bill goes totally ballistic. How can you compare me to my dad? And everyone laughs. I have some experience like that. And I go, no, this is the most profound story in the world. Profound. I say, why? Everybody else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The one who doesn't see it is Bill. Explain it? Sure. Bill is thinking most of the time, and his behavior is then controlled by the subconscious, which is programmed by his dad and his mom and everybody. I go, why is it relevant? Because he's thinking 95% of the time. He's now defaulting, playing these subconscious programs, but guess what? He's the only one that doesn't see it. And the reason why? Why is he playing it? Because his conscious mind's busy. So whatever behavior is coming out, 95% of the day, Bill can't see it because he's only playing it because his mind's busy and he's playing default. So it turns out, whatever programming you get in the first 7 years is going to shape your life because you're going to play that 95% of the time. And you go, well, this must be new science. I go, well, the science is new, but the knowledge is 400 years old. Point. The Jesuits have a statement or a saying they've said for 400 years to their flock. And here's the statement. Give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man. What did they know? They were boasting, for God's sakes. They were saying, give me the education of the child for 7 years and I will show you what that person's going to be. Why? because 95% of your life is going to come from that subconscious program. So they already knew they could program you and control your life by whatever program they put in 7 years. They knew that 400 years. They told people didn't know. Oh, I don't know. Sounds really interesting. Give them the 7 years and they'll show you the man. It's like they were telling you the matrix. I program you for 7 years, you will become the program. Okay. So what's really interesting about it is this. In the movie, they talk about, well, you could take a red pill or a blue pill. I go, what's the difference? Well, you take the blue pill, when you wake up, you're back into the program and life is exactly the way it's been for you forever. But if you take the red pill, you get out of the program. I go, what happens if you take the red pill? Now I'm going to tell you. Most everybody out there, all of your community, I presume, is older than 17 or 18. And I go, why is it relevant? Because here's the joke. It's in your own life. There have been times where you've taken the red pill and your life is profoundly changed in that moment of taking the red pill. And I'll give you the example. And the example is this. When you fall in love, there's a period I call the honeymoon, which is just after you fall in love, that period that's so fresh. Love is so fresh. It's like, wow. I go, what's different? I go, up until the day you met this person, right up until you met this person, hey, my life sucks and my job sucks. I don't like life, blah, 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 blah. And I say, then you meet this person. 10 minutes later, it's like, life is beautiful. God, I'm so happy. I'm so healthy. Even my job, I don't really care. I am in love. Look how it's heaven on earth. Look at my love, how happy. We are so in love. I go, what happened? You ready? Science has recognized a fact. When you fall in love like that, it's the equivalent of taking the red pill. You don't default to the subconscious. Why? Because you stay what is called mindful. You keep your conscious mind present. You don't keep thinking a lot. I go, why? And the answer is, if you've been looking for this person your whole life and they show up, why would you spend your time thinking? They're right in front of your face. You keep your mind present. I go, oh, if you keep your mind present, then you're not defaulting to the subconscious. I go, yeah. I say, if you keep your mind present, then you have your hands on the wheel. I go, yeah. I say, and what is that? Wishes and desires. I say, when you fell in love, you manifested for that period wishes and desires. And you created heaven on earth. And I go, that's called the honeymoon. I go, that's the sign of your personal creativity without a program. It is the one time you stop playing the program. And I say, and what was the consequence? You went from hell on earth to heaven on earth overnight. I go, why? Because the programs you've been playing day by day, those programs have been sabotaging you. All of a sudden, the first day you wake up, no program. I'm creating. I go, what'd you create? I can't tell you because this is a public air show right now, but I create a lot of fun and I had a great time and everything was great. And then I go, and how long does that last? And then here it goes. You ready? It doesn't last for a long, long time. That juicy honeymoon, heaven on earth, life is the most beautiful thing in the world. Why? And the answer is, no matter how much you're in love, you still got to pay the rent. You got to fix the car. You got chores to do. I go, why is it relevant? The moment you start thinking about the things you have to do is the moment you start defaulting to the subconscious. I say, why is it relevant? Because the behaviors that you start playing when you're in the subconscious mind are not you. They're the program. And most of them are negative. I go, relevance. I'm in a relationship and honeymoon with my loving partner. I'm operating wishes, desires. She's operating wishes and desires, together manifesting wishes and desires. She comes up to ask me a question, a loving question. But at this one moment, I'm thinking about, I got to fix the car. I got to take it into town. I got to blah, blah, blah. She comes up, asks me a loving question, and I turn around and go, blah, blah, blah. And she looks at me, universal, this is universal. She looks at me and goes, who are you? Where did that come from? That's the beginning of the end of the honeymoon. I say, why? because now the behavior I just played was nothing she'd ever seen in the honeymoon. Why? I never played any subconscious programs. Now I just did. And I say, what did I play? Oh, I played my father. Well, he had a bad relationship with my mother. Sorry, public. And I say, why is it relevant? Because the behavior that I just played, being my father's behavior, was not me. My partner sees it. I say, why is it relevant? She saw the behavior, and then she accuses me of what kind of behavior is that? But then now I'm Bill. What was the point? I was thinking. I didn't even see the behavior. It came out automatically, subconscious. So I didn't even see it. And now I'm being accused of not being me, and I'm going, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm still me. I'm the same me I've always been. But she's looking at me thinking, yeah, but you've never played that behavior before. And now she has to have a choice. She says, wow, that was pretty crummy behavior. Do I want to stay with Bruce or not? And she looks back, she goes, hey, the rest is heaven on earth. Okay, sometimes Bruce acts like an idiot. Okay, accept it, compromise. I'll live with that. That was only the first behavior from my subconscious. As she lives with me day by day, and I start thinking more and more and start shifting into greater, up to 95% subconscious program, the behaviors that are coming out of me are not the behaviors of the honeymoon. And they could be, one of them could be violent. If somebody grew up in a family where there was abuse, then the father beat on the mother and hit her or something like that, right? I would never have played that during the honeymoon. But the moment I end up thinking, and she comes up and I turn around and hit her because of that's what my dad would have done, that might not be something that the relationship is going to support. Those kind of negative things break the relationship. What started as heaven on earth becomes regular life, if not a pain in the ass. And the relevance is this: there's the point where maybe one too many compromises, then the couple says, no, this relationship is over. And then both people are going, how did something that was so beautiful turn into this? And the answer was this: it started out because you took the red pill. You didn't play the program. And you were now creating from wishes and desires. But as time went on and more thinking started to take over your processing, the less and less you were operating from wishes and desires, and the more and more you're operating from program. Since the programs are primarily negative, it's self-sabotaging. Since the programs are subconscious, they're invisible to you. So all you're left with is, wow, the world is now completely different, and I don't even know why, because I'm still the same guy. Inside, I'm still who I am. I'm not the subconscious, I'm the conscious, but I'm not expressing conscious. And that's when it changes. So it basically says this: we're all out here in this world, and we're not creating what we want except for special times. Does it have to be falling in love with a person? No, but that's most people experience it that way. That's why I use that as the example. You could be a gardener. And I say, why? You could be having all kinds of aggravation in the family. You step outside, you put your hands in the dirt, you're planting the plants. You're not playing the program anymore. You're being creative. I go, what are you doing? You're disconnected from that other reality. You're in love. You're in the garden. I feel so happy to be here in the garden. I'm enjoying my life. I'm healthy when I come out here in the garden. Or you could be an artist, and your life is, and then you put the brush in your hand. Now you're painting. You're creating. Conscious mind. You're not playing the program. While you're creating, while you're painting in your studio, life is beautiful. But once you step outside the studio and start to engage, that's when all of a sudden it turns back into regular life. So taking the red pill doesn't have to be falling in love with a person. It's falling in love with something that you're creative with. Because creative conscious mind that's the one that has the love in it. Okay? Subconscious mind, just programs. No thinking. That's why you can't, you say, I'm not going to do that behavior anymore, darling. I promise I won't be the idiot anymore. And then 10 minutes later, you're an idiot again. And why? Because the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and this is where I started a long time ago, and I'm making a circle coming back. They're two interdependent minds. As I said, they have different functions. Conscious mind is creative. Subconscious mind just plays habits, programs. But they learn in different ways, and this is the problem for the population. Because there's the conventional belief, the mind, one, if I raise my consciousness, I have raised the character of my life. I go, no, you've changed your conscious mind, but that does not change the subconscious habit. So you could read the self-help book and go, oh, I got it figured out. That's how you do it. I go, now that you read the book, is your life any different? I go, no, it's the same life, but my conscious mind is aware of how to do it. I go, yeah, because you're not using your conscious mind, the one you just educated reading the book. You're still using the subconscious mind. So you go to the lecture, you listen to this conversation we're having, you go to, you could just go, aha, and the conscious mind can change. But the habit mind, the subconscious mind, resists change. I say, why? What good is a habit if it changes all the time? You learned how to walk before you were 2. You're still using the exact same program. Thank God it doesn't change. Because if it changed, you'd have to relearn how to walk every time. So the habit mind resists change. So the conscious mind, the way it's creative, can learn in many different ways. But that does not go back and change the subconscious programming. And this is the part that really upsets people, because they know better. In my conscious mind, I know better because my conscious mind is quite aware. And yet my life is not, to them, well, as I said, almost everybody out there didn't realize you're not running your life with that mind. Only 5%. So therefore, I don't care how many self-help books you read, you're still going to have the same behavior until you change the subconscious. And it doesn't change by the processes by which the conscious mind learns. And that has been the stumbling block, because most people think, oh, I've acquired the knowledge of how to have a healthier, better life, and my life is still the same. And I go, yeah, because the conscious mind acquired the knowledge, not the subconscious. And you're not using the conscious mind for your life, and that's why your life doesn't match your awareness.
That's wow, Bruce, that's a really great conversation, from epigenetics to how we can control our life with our subconscious programs. I love how you bridge that together, and I love the concept of bridging science and spirituality. If you look at spirituality, about the choices that we have and the path that we're on, is it's really an interesting time where we can listen to a lot of different things, but changing our actual programs that we have is the key. And as you know, I like talking about the future trajectory of the human race. And
wow, that's a good topic right now, because it's in process. We're in an accelerated evolution, and I want people to understand why it's necessary, especially the millennial generation, those under 40, why they must be paying attention now. And it's this: 5 times in the history of this planet, life was thriving. I mean, lush, thriving life. And then something happened and it disappeared. 5 times. These are called mass extinctions. Like the dinosaurs were here, and then the dinosaurs were not here. Something happened. And 5 times life was wiped out, essentially, and started over again. Those are called mass extinctions. The interesting part is this: science has recognized a fact that we all have to wake up to, and that is this. Today, we are losing species of organisms on this planet faster than in previous mass extinctions. That there's always a loss of species. It's just background. Every now and then a species drops out. But today, we're losing a species. Listen to this: 1,000 times faster than background. We're losing species so fast they're disappearing in front of our face. That if you were alive in 1970, only half the animal life on this planet exists today that was here just in 1970. Half the animals on this planet are gone since 1970. That for the millennial generation, here's a scientific fact, and it's a conservative number because it's going to happen sooner. They say by 2048, not that far, there will be no fish in the oceans of planet Earth. We have lost 90% of the fish since 1950. And I say, why is it relevant? Planet Earth without fish in the ocean? Almost science fiction. And our life on land is based on a lot what's going on in the ocean. Climate is directed by ocean changes. Ocean changes are affected by everything in the ocean. We have polluted the ocean. We have contaminated the world. We have overfished the ocean. We have destroyed the breeding grounds. I say, wait, what about the animals? We killed the lions, the elephants, the hippopotami, tigers, great apes, they're disappearing. Count them on your hand numbers of certain animals left on this planet. So fact. We are in what as science has recognized, the 6th mass extinction. The previous 5, they say, well, what caused life to disappear? Some of the stories are a comet or asteroid hits the environment and does upheaval. Another action is massive geological activity, tectonic plates shifting, causing volcanoes and earthquakes and wiping out things, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, science has recognized A, we're in the 6th mass extinction of life, and B, it's being driven by human behavior. We, and the way we are living on this planet, have undermined the ecosystem so much that it's falling out. And you go, well, okay, who cares? If you want to see a tiger, there's a zoo, you'll go see a tiger. I go, wait a minute. Humans didn't get here separate from this environment. Humans are part of the meshwork, the network of an environment. When you drop out the environment below us, there's no support for human survival. So the 6th mass extinction we are now in, science it's clear, it's not we're playing with it, no, we're in it, includes our own extinction. Not in 1,000 years, they're talking 100 years or more, right around then. I say, why? Well, hello, millennial generation. You're in the heart of it right now, and things are picking up right now, okay? So why is this relevant? And the answer is this. Human behavior has to change because human behavior is causing the problem. Human behavior is propagated through the subconscious mind, and it's been cultivated. So even if you feel like I want to save the planet, that's a conscious wish, but your subconscious is probably going to decimate the planet because you're doing it unconsciously. Now, why is this relevant? And here's why it's relevant, and that is this. We are not sustainable. We have gone beyond sustainability so much that it'll take 5 planet Earths to provide the materials needed to keep this population going. Meaning we cannot live this way anymore. Relevance. The system, if it continues the way it is, extinction is right in your face, and you're going to see it, and you're seeing it every day. Which means what? The only way to survive is to change the system. We cannot live with the governments and the corporations that are causing the problem. And so when you look at the world, and this is why this is my closing thing, because you got to hear it this way, and you see all the problems, and you look at the world, and there's people out of work, and there's health crisis, economic crisis, climate crisis, food crisis, on and on. It's all part of one crisis, not sustainable. The only way out now is to do what? The only way out is to change the system. Because the system that's there is not supporting us, okay? So the relevance that we have to understand is this. The crises you are seeing are a wake-up call. The millennial generation doesn't even know it. They're the primary movers of evolution. You say, why? And I say, well, look at them. They're the ones going, whoa, with me. I got a college education. I can't even pay for it. I can't get a job to even pay the money for this college education. I want a place to live. I got to share it with 3 other people because none of us are making enough money. My dad's got a house with 5-car garage with BMWs and Mercedes in it. I can't get a job. The millennial generation is going, we're not in it. I go, that is where evolution is coming from. Simple. You can only hold up a civilization based on how many people are supporting it. The millennial generation, 50% or more. I say, why is it relevant? They're not part of this existing system. They're disconnected from it. They're saying, woe with me. I'm going, no. By being out of the system, there's less people holding the system. And what you're seeing now is the collapse of the existing system. Why? Because the millennial generation, I might even say to you, I don't know what your response is, but the average millennial, I say, hey, the stock market's going to crash. And the average millennial will go, well, like I own a stock? I'm not even involved. I go, that's where the evolution is coming from. So the point is this: there's a switchover period in process. The millennial generation lives in a different global civilization. The older generation is a local civilization. They didn't have internet. They didn't have global community. They only knew what was going on in their neighborhood and what the newspaper told them was going on in their neighborhood. Today, millennial generation's connected globally. They've got iPhone cameras everywhere telling the truth that wasn't shown before, because now everybody's got a camera and they can see it and they can send it around the world. And now the generation, this wonderful millennial generation, is a unique generation. They don't have local borders. They're a global world. That's what evolution is coming to. It's a global civilization. What you do on the other side of the world affects what I do on this side of the world. So we better start watching out for everybody, because any country that goes rogue could blow the system. And so guess what? Young people everywhere are in a stage of revolution. They're in a stage of evolution. It doesn't have to be physical. It just has to pull your resources out of the existing system, and the existing system will collapse. And so the younger generation doesn't even have that much resources, but they're not putting it into the conventional system. And so, point for all of you millennials, it looks like crap out there, but this is beautiful, because if it doesn't and it stayed the same way, we're extinct, baby. It's written on the wall. We're going extinct. You're going to see it in your lifetime. You're going to see this planet fall apart, as it is doing right now, but at a much more accelerated rate. So when you look at the crisis out there and you say, well, and I go, good. Because if there's no crisis, bad. Because that means you're going to stay where you are. Crisis means evolution. Meaning we hit the wall. We got to have some new things. And the younger generation, not being part of the structure, will seek the answers outside of the structure and create a different civilization. And that is the only saving grace of this planet. It is the millennial generation saying, I am not part of your old worldview. I will not participate in your old worldview. And I'd rather have friends around the globe than to be in fear like Donald Trump. The point about Donald Trump, you want to understand something simple? It's the end of a civilization when a candidate like Donald Trump can seriously be considered as a president of the United States. That means this country is on the rocks. It's collapsing. But it's not the only one. Every country is collapsing. And why? If it doesn't, you got the worst future you could ever imagine. You'd see hell on this planet. But if it collapses, you got a chance to build the best thing that has ever happened. A global civilization, a new organism called humanity, where each of us is a cell in the body of something bigger, where every human is a cell in the same body. So if you kill a human from another country, that's autoimmune disease. That's self-destruction. And so we are evolving, and thank God for the millennial generation not being part of it, because it's the only reason that I can look forward to a future that says we're not in this anymore, because the young people have created something better. And there we go. Have a good day. Have a good future. Keep the love. Keep the harmony, the balance with nature. And this garden will come back. And you will be in a garden, not the war zone that we've created. And that's that from Bruce.
Beautiful, Bruce. Thank you so much for an absolutely incredible conversation about epigenetics, as always, and I guess finishing with the future of humanity. So in short and summary, guys, go and experience some love, love somebody, love what you do, enjoy being in that space, and forget the system, because things are changing, need to change. So Bruce Lipton, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing all your insights and wisdom and knowledge with all of us on this journey. And I really appreciate the insight that you bring to these conversations. And I hope that everybody listening can take time to have a bit of a reflection about this. I'm sure you'd like to listen to this conversation a few times and really take in some of the really important points that Bruce has touched on today. So, Bruce, thank you so much again.
I want to thank you, Matt, for this opportunity. I want to thank everybody in the audience, because those of you in the audience are evolutionaries. Your job is big job, but it's going to be great, because when you create the planet you want, when you go to bed, you'll be in love. When you wake up, you'll be in love.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate all your support. Personal Health Summit, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And you are now empowered to take control of your own future and the future of humanity. Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.